So, I'm just going to come for a quiet reading night. I'm just going to start instead of talking. This is from chapter the 9th. This is the other novel I've worked on. I think I have everything set up. I don't want to read it the whole what I have written, so I'm just taking little chapters and bits of it instead of reading the whole thing, because it's just wondering which. I'll just it's awkward to just start, especially when you're at home. Chapter the 9th, Hide and Seek. This is a cute little chapter, but it gets pretty dark eventually, but I don't know if I'm going to make it there. Just the volume here. Chapter the 9th, Hide and Seek. There was a whisper of a smile on the face of Henry Field as he pressed the rough trunk of a laurel tree draped in crimson orange leaves with his back, and pricked his ears to listen to certain sounds that could reveal the approaching presence of the person he was hiding from. It was his intention to remain as motionless and quiet as possible, to control his curiosity and not turn his head, in order to peer out from his location of concealment and to emerge victorious from this game of hide and seek. But his desire to see how close his partner was to finding him got the better of him, and he, not hearing any noise, gave in to his inquisitiveness. After an adequate examination, which resulted in not seeing anyone, he pulled back his head, crowned with light brown champagne-colored tresses, and that ended in bouncy curls, and began to wonder what a serious first-year law student like him, whose chosen profession he believed would fit him like a glove, was doing in this playful and juvenile situation. The only reasonable explanation, naturally, was love personified in the petite figure of Mira, who was currently fluttering from one tree to another like a vivacious butterfly in search of her wandering pair. "Henry," she called out, attempting in vain to suppress her giggles. "There are too many trees here. I'll never find you." Said Henry, looked out again from behind the tree, and could now discern the beloved shape of Mira in the nearer distance. "But I'm not going to give up," she continued with a coy chuckle. "I know you're somewhere here. I can feel it. My outstanding perseverance will gain me my reward." Henry was an obstinate, hard-working, unyielding, and strong-minded man who could fight to the end whenever he committed himself to a decision, traits that made him a perfect candidate for the legal sector, and now he was determined not to budge from his present position, despite his fervent desire to yield to the temptation to fold his arms around the girl he had been dating for the past 7 months. Henry was most satisfied with his enviable life. He had a radiant future ahead of him. He lived in a very agreeable, though not overtly extravagant house situated on the outskirts of Cairn, and upheld by his parents, both doctors of medicine, who worked in the main hospital of the city. His upbringing formed him into a respectable, considerate, and courteous, almost to a fault young gentleman. He was greatly admired and liked by his circle of friends, consisting of not a large number, but all the more loyal and steadfast group. He was quite the gastronome, and enjoyed all manners of gourmet food, which resulted in his having a healthy figure, though not at all overweight. And now he had a consistent partner of whom many were immensely jealous. He was obliged to admit that his excellent taste in women and food alike obtained for him all he wished for. But unlike food, Mira was not simply a delightful delicacy, but was the absolute sole purpose of his life, for he was passionately in love with her. Hence his conceding to comply with any requests, such as the current rather absurd game of hide and seek that Mira had. I can see your coat, Henry. It's peeping right out from the side of that tree. I've found you, Henry. I've found you. He now heard the crackling of dried leaves accompanied by the light trampling of feet, and before he was fully aware of it, he was pounced upon by Mira and embraced with her full strength. He bent down to accept the gift of a tender kiss she placed on his lips, and eagerly listened to all she had to say to him as they left the stronghold of the tree to return to the yard of his home, which was but a short distance from the forest entrance where they held their game. Hi, McDemil, how are you? Good to see you. Are you streaming? I saw you a moment there. I might even actually do a lurk. Are you still streaming? There were so many stink bugs. I even had LG make a. I didn't have him. He made a clip, but I'm gonna make one too. They were dragging me by the head and everything. It was crazy. Okay. On a sudden, Henry heard a gleeful shriek, followed by Mira shouting. Oh yeah, I just said that. He now heard the crackling of dried leaves. I said that too? Or was I? Oh yeah. I truly didn't think you would go that far into the woods, Henry. So I was convinced you'd be somewhere towards the very front of the area, and that is one of the reasons it took me such a long time to find you. You know, I looked behind I'm sure I did look behind every single tree that finally led me to the region where I found you. But you know, it would still have probably taken me quite a length of time to discover your whereabouts if it hadn't been for my noticing that bright blue piece of your coat that stood out like a sore thumb in the midst of all those orange leaves and brown trees. Oh, okay, nice. And that's how it was all over for you, Henry. That is how I went out, Mira, in her characteristically bubbly manner. I forgot to do the bubbly. Oh, yeah. For my part, I was getting a little impatient, and I was inclined to believe I had been in that arduous posture for what seemed like hours. Mira placed her hand into Henry's and responded, Hours? Oh no, Henry, it couldn't possibly have felt that long. I know, I had the better part of the game looking for you and running around and reaching the end of our game did truly take longer than I had expected, but achieving my goal and discovering my prize. Here she tightened her hold in his hand, made all my effort and work vanish into nothing. You're going to tire yourself out, Mira, with all this running around? Oh, no, Henry, not in the least. Do you recall last weekend when we attended the party organized by Diana after the show? Diana, I must observe, is an absolute professional when it comes to organizing parties. She knows precisely who to invite, how many guests to include, which musicians, and what music to have them play. The food she has catered is always of the best quality without it being too pricey, and she accomplishes all this without exaggeration of funds. Well, Diana's not too rich, so it's only natural that she's careful with her spending. But that day of the party, I had had a long, tiring day, and still I was completely capable of dancing with you almost all night, and I wasn't even that exhausted the following day, so I highly doubt this trifling excursion of ours today is going to cost me my needed energy. But I appreciate your concern for me, my dearest Henry. You know I do, even though we went over all of this earlier. She threw his arms around his shoulders to grace him with another subtle kiss and allowed her words to retreat for a while so she could mesmerize him by casting her gaze in his eyes. He lived and breathed for moments like these, where he could admire the delightful attributes of her soft, caramel-toned face, framed by a long stream of straight, night-black hair as dark and powerful as her large onyx eyes. But she was as equally in love with him as he was with her. She was indefatigably in awe of his being a law student. She could never cease to boast of his intelligence. but she was mainly drawn to his kind, gentle, yet assiduous nature. They both shared a common love for animals of all sorts and could spend hours together in the outside world of nature. They made a perfect couple in many aspects. Their age also contributed to their love being of the unique kind that can only be perceived and felt in the beautiful and tender care of youth. Mira grabbed Henry's hand and, pulling his arm, took the post of leader by urging him to return with her to his house, where they could partake of a light repast, and then by running ahead of him with light laughter escorting her steps. "Mira, wait for me. You know I'm not as fast as you." "Which is a perfect reason for us to have a race to the house." Very funny, he shouted. Immediately after his remark, Henry heard a loud crack and saw Mira's knees cave in before her small figure tripped and lightly fell into a bundle of leaves. "Mira," he cried, rushing to her side. I'm fine, she replied, standing up before he could reach her. "I stepped onto a dried-out branch and tripped, that's all. This all comes at a very inconvenient time, unfortunately, if there is some harm. I don't feel any pain yet," she added, leaning on Henry's arm after he made it to her side and placing weight on the leg that had tripped over the piece of wood. She waited a few moments and brought her eyebrows closer together, saying, "Unfortunately, I do feel some pain shooting up my leg, but so far it seems the damage is minimal. I'll just take off my shoe, Henry, to see if there's any swelling. There's a larger branch over there. I'll go sit on that." "And today has to be the day when my parents are gone on a visit to my uncles," reacted Henry. "Hi, Amanda. Thank you. I'm just doing a little unwinding, just reading to myself and anyone who may want to fall asleep. I'm pretty close to it." She untied the laces. "Hi, Looking Glass. How are you?" It's like a bedtime story for everyone. This was like a simpler little chapter here as opposed to the others. It's just like this cute little couple, but it'll get dark eventually. Just don't think it's all happy and oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It was nice to chat with you all as well. No. So she sat upon a branch and occupied a seat upon it. She untied the laces. She untied the laces of her cloth boots that ran up to halfway between her ankle and knee, removed the shoe, and pressing the area where she felt some pain, determined it was not swollen and the damage was far from severe. "Thank you. I'll pick you up and carry you back to the house." No, don't be silly, Henry. I'm perfectly capable of walking on it." "You need to rest and you need to cancel tonight," urged Henry. "I will do no such thing. I must reiterate, I am not hurt at all. The pain is so slight I can barely feel it. If you really want to help me, then I'll accept a few painkillers. They will do away with this pettiest of inconveniences." "But I have a word to say to you, Henry Field." "Yes?" "You are utterly endearing and lovable when you are worried about me," she giggled. "That's more than a word, Mira Talon." "Is it now? Then I suppose I shan't add another one." "No, you really shouldn't," laughed Henry, and helped her stand up from her rough seat. "Then I won't tell you how kind, loving, unique, fabulous, excellent, pure-hearted, intelligent, and wonderful you are." These are two little young lovebirds. "I warned you, Mira. I warned you in advance," he said in addition, and swiftly caught her up into his arms. She's like this tiny little, not tiny little, but very petite girl. Dark hair and dark complexion, black eyes. Well, the guy is like this bigger, he's a law student. No, she cried, laughing. I told you not to carry me. Being taken back to Henry's home, Mira felt she could never be happier than she was that day. He was a true source of joy, and nobody other than Henry could console her when, such as on the present occasion, she suffered from afflictions of any sort. He indeed had many merits, and she believed herself to be the most fortunate girl, I can't see, in the entire world. The incident with her leg was truly not of a serious nature, but she ceased her protestations and enjoyed her ride in his arms, which conveyed her to the forest clearing that eventually led to an ascending slope, upon which were laid flat grey stones, eventually culminating in steps which led to the yard of the Fields house. Mira succeeded in convincing Henry to release her from the captivity of his arms and place her back onto the ground, and she celebrated her reclaimed freedom by inspecting the various flowers in the garden. The ball-shaped, bouncy hydrangeas dipped in pink and lilac hues, the many-petaled chrysanthemums of red, burgundy, and orange colors, the pansies that play with the various shades of yellow, blue, and purple, and the bright-colored orange and yellow marigolds. However, all these pretty autumn flowers shared a common sad fate. They were doomed to have the true radiance of their colors detained from them by the veil of tarnishing ash, a result of the lack of pure sunlight and solemn, constant, cloudy sky. Because this area is always like cloudy and misty and foggy, and has it's a very pretty dark area. So the sun is rare. I said that in the first chapter, but come, you need to rest and have something to eat, said Henry, as he pushed down the knob of the entrance door. The two-stoned house had a simple architecture with stone walls, a gabled blue roof, a wide porch upon which sat two wooden rocking chairs, large rectangular windows, and a front and back door. The building stood solitary on a smaller hill, but not too far from other similarly secluded residences, so it had neighbors at small distances. It was also accompanied by a carriage house, shed, and a stable for the horses. There's no cars or this fantasy world is kind of set in a. It's like a not 18th century, maybe beginning 18th century, a little different than that, more simpler in terms. But they have cable cars, so that's and they have everything running with steam, but no steam engines as of yet. Now you just sit down here, instructed Henry once they entered the dining room, and I'll tell Lynn to bring us something to eat before I look for the pain relievers. I'll be back in a minute. No need to rush, but I will be happy to take some medicines. Make sure to bring enough for later this evening. Most certainly. Are you certain you're all right? If you ask me one more time, Henry, I'm going to have you pick me up and carry me all the way to the city center. Now go and hurry. I am famished and can hardly wait to eat. I'm just wondering where they're going to be eating here for a while. Find a little more interesting area. Oh yeah, here. Oh, this part is first kind of starts getting creepy, but I think I'm tired. Well, that was a little reading. I hope everyone fell asleep. I definitely am almost asleep. Have a good night. Sleep tight. Have good dreams. Dream of a lot of stink bugs flying peacefully in your clouds. Thank you. Good night. Au revoir. Yeah, this was a simpler one, but it's cute. It's not cute actually, it's pretty dark, but this part is one of the happy parts. Alright, bye.